Joining us now is the Shadow Foreign Secretary David Lammy. Hi, thanks for joining us. Did the government go far enough with its sanctions?
Look, there's a real issue about the depth of the sanctions. Just 3 Russian oligarchs. There are 74,000 Russian people in this country, the ONS say. In the EU, they've said 27. Why only 3? And then there's the severity of the sanctions. We should be cutting Russia out of the international financial system. That means getting them out of the SWIFT system, dealing with their currency and cutting them out of the sovereign
tricky to do
debt
that, though, isn't
system. You cut them out of the sovereign debt system. The Americans have just done that.
The SWIFT system, though,
we
it's
haven't done
difficult
that.
to do that, isn't it?
The SWIFT system is mandatory. And actually, given that it's run from New York and London, we can make it happen. We haven't. The EU have put a travel ban on 351 members of parliament, effectively, in Russia. Why haven't we done the same?
So we don't have legislation in place to do that yet, do we?
How serious are we about dealing with sanctions was the question that was coming up in the House of Commons.
Do we have the legislation in place to be able to do that with representatives from the Duma at the moment?
Well, it was the legislation that we debated yesterday that gives us the framework to do that. So we can do that if we want to, but we've got to be serious about it.
What do you want to see happen? What should happen to people like Abramovich and the like? Because we did hear from the Prime Minister that he had been sanctioned. Then, of course, he says he misspoke and he will alter the record accordingly.
Look, what we know is that there's dirty Russian money in London. What we know is that whilst Vladimir Putin might not care about his own general public, he does care about money, and rich people associated with him need to feel the squeeze. We know that. I'm not going to name individual people on this show because it would not be subject to parliamentary privilege in the House. But we know the names, and in the end, coming up with just 3 feels very little too late.
The Conservative government, while under Boris Johnson's tenure, has received millions of pounds from Russian-linked donors since he took office in October of 2019. I think I'm right in those dates. Should they give it back? I did put that to Liz Truss. She said no. Well, she didn't say no, but she basically dodged the question.
Give it back. Give it back. Send a message that we're serious. I'm sure it's not going to harm the Conservative Party coffers. It sends a statement. If the money is Russian-linked, if there's any suggestion that some of it has come from oligarchs who might be close to Putin, give the money back. And I said that weeks ago, and they haven't done it.
What's going on with Putin? We got the impression that he was trying to negotiate. The French President Macron said that he was looking to hopefully put the 2 leaders, when I say the 2 leaders, the US and Russia, together as part of a summit. We know that Blinken from the US and Lavrov from Russia were supposed to get together tomorrow. All of that is off now. Did he never want a diplomatic solution?
You've got to judge him by his actions, and his actions is an increased build-up on Ukraine's borders with more and more troops in a ready, offensive position to attack. We're not seeing de-escalation. Of course, we hope for peace and diplomacy in the 11th hour, but I think Joe Biden is right when he says that there can't be a summit whilst it's clear that you're getting ready to invade. The situation is very serious. I'm fortunate in my job to get the intelligence briefing. We've got very, very considerable intelligence capability. It's very, very worrying what is happening on Ukraine's borders at this time.
Tell us what you can tell us as far as that briefing is concerned. Does the intelligence say that there will be an invasion?
It's very clear that if Russia wants to attack, it can. It's ready to go. And there has been no de-escalation. And actually, the rhetoric from Vladimir Putin himself just 48 hours ago in relation to Ukraine, its history, its lack of sovereignty, the fact that it's part of Russia, that's in his head, he thought that, is indicative of a language that we haven't seen, frankly, from a European leader since the 1920s. Early 1930s.
The Foreign Secretary said that we were expecting a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, including an attempted attack on Kiev. Would you, given what you've seen, would you agree with that?
Yes, if you look at where the troops are stationed around the country, if you look at the numbers that are set, if you look at the air power, missile power, then very, very sadly, it feels like the ability to attempt to take the whole country is there. And that's why the West has to be very, very vigilant.
And to that end, what should the West do if he does?
We have to hit him hard financially, where it matters and where it hurts. And that's why I think in the British House of Commons there was concern that the government's ratcheting up is slow and that we're not sending the message in a united way, that we're serious about damaging those that are close to him in the Kremlin and dealing with this issue of dirty money.
And what about militarily?
We're not committing troops on the ground. There is no appetite for that in the West, and it's right that Ukraine is not part of NATO, so that is not the commitment.
Yeah, but we did with Iraq.
We're not making that commitment. And actually, when I was in Kiev a few weeks ago, it wasn't actually what the Ukrainians were saying. They were raising issues around equipment and their readiness to fight. They were thanking the British for Operation Orbital, where we've been training them and helping them. And of course, there's more we may be able to do in relation to equipment. Zelensky, I know, has asked for more just in the last 48 hours. But there will not be a commitment of British troops on the ground.
It's always great to see you in the flesh. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Lammy. Thank you.